Six friends broke into an abandoned California amusement park for a night of fun, but one vanished. Then a voice crackled through the speakers. Do what I say, or you die. What followed was the bloodiest night of their lives. Think you can handle the full story? Prove it. Watch till the end. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you survive. Danny. Brandon's shout echoed across the empty rides, bouncing off the rusting metal like a taunt. His flashlight beam cut across rows of faded carnival booths, their paint peeling, prizes long rotted into scraps of fur. Danny, quit screwing around. Lena barked, kicking an empty soda can out of her way. The sound rattled into the dark, too loud, too sharp. Maya kept her voice low. He wouldn't just disappear. Not Danny. He hates being alone. Her hands tightened on the flashlight, knuckles white. Sophie's head whipped side to side, scanning every shadow. What if he fell? Or got stuck somewhere? Tyler tried to lighten the air. What if he's making out with a clown mannequin right now? His laugh cracked, too high-pitched, giving away the fear in his throat. The group moved as one across the cracked asphalt, shoes crunching glass and gravel. The rides loomed in the dark, roller coaster skeleton against the cloudy sky, Ferris wheel half collapsed, funhouse crouching like a beast waiting to swallow them. And then, a speaker hissed. The sound came from nowhere, from everywhere, the ancient PA system groaning to life. Static surged, then a voice, low, distorted, wrong. Looking for Danny, it whispered, and every teen froze. Brandon swung his flashlight up at the nearest speaker box, its grill choked with rust. Who the hell is that? He demanded, though his voice cracked halfway through. Danny can't come to the phone right now, the voice said, playful, dragging out the words. But I can help. If you want to see him again, do what I say. The group went silent. The air felt heavier, pressed against their skin. Or, the voice added, almost laughing, you all die here tonight. Or you all die here tonight. The words crackled from the speaker, stretched and warped by static. Maya's voice was barely audible. That's not funny. It's not a joke, Sophie whispered back, eyes wide. It knows our names. The speaker hissed again, like the thing on the other end was breathing into their ears. Let's start with something simple. Brandon. Brandon stiffened, his bravado peeling away in an instant. He tried to laugh, but it came out sharp and fake. Yeah? What about me? See the carousel? The distorted voice was calm, almost friendly. A faint whine of rusted gears came from the shadows ahead. Walk to it. Climb on. Sit on the white horse. Brandon glanced at the others. Lena rolled her eyes. Don't listen. It's some creep with a speaker system. We'll find him. But the voice cut her off. If Brandon doesn't sit on the white horse in 30 seconds, Tyler dies. The group whipped toward Tyler. He froze, a sick smile twisting across his face. Wait, what? Why me? The countdown began. 30, 29, 28. Holy sh*T, Brandon muttered, running forward, sneakers slamming the cracked ground. The carousel sat like a corpse in the dark, horses chipped and broken, poles rusted. Its lights flickered weakly, as if waking from a coma. Brandon clambered onto the platform and found the white horse, its paint mostly peeled, its glass eye shattered. He swung himself onto the saddle. The carousel groaned. Then it moved. The gears shrieked as the platform turned, slow at first, then faster. The horses bobbed up and down, jerking unnaturally. Brandon clung to the pole, swearing, but the voice purred from the speakers. Good boy. The carousel screeched to a stop. Brandon staggered off, panting, eyes wide. Tyler exhaled shakily. Jesus. Jesus. Okay, so we just do what it says. The voice returned, dripping with amusement. Exactly. Now who's next? The speaker hissed again, louder now, every word rattling the metal bones of the park. Tyler. His grin collapsed. What? No, come on. I didn't even do anything. Exactly, the voice said, drawn out, mocking. You laughed. You doubted. Now you prove yourself. See the bumper cars? Go stand in the center. Don't move. Tyler barked a nervous laugh. Screw you. I'm not playing Simon Says with a rust bucket. 10. The voice said, calm as a clock. 9. 8. Don't, Tyler, Maya whispered, grabbing his arm. Please, just do it. But he yanked away. It's fake. Somebody's hiding with a walkie-talkie. I'm not. The countdown hit 1. The bumper cars lit up. Sparks cascaded from the ceiling wires as the ancient motors roared to life. One car jerked forward on its own, then another, then all of them. Their headlights flared like eyes in the dark. Tyler froze as the cars circled him, rubber tires squealing, their movements too sharp, too fast. Run. Lena screamed. But he didn't get the chance. The first car slammed into his side with a bone-snapping crack. He hit the ground screaming, ribs shattered. The others tried to rush forward, but the bumper cars spun outward like guard dogs, blocking them. Another car struck. Then another. The sound of crunching bone mixed with his screams until the screaming stopped. When the cars finally halted, Tyler lay twisted on the floor, blood seeping across the cracked concrete, his arm bent backward at an impossible angle. The voice hummed through the speakers, satisfied. Lesson 1. Obey. Sophie clamped her hands over her mouth. Maya's flashlight trembled in her grip. Brandon cursed under his breath, kicking a stone that clattered uselessly against the dead cars. Then the voice spoke again, slow and deliberate. Next game. The park lights flickered. One ride after another stuttering awake, powered by something unseen. The Ferris wheel creaked in the distance, its rusted frame glowing like a halo. Sophie stumbled backward from Tyler's mangled body. We have to leave. Now. There's got to be a way out. They sprinted together, shoes slamming the cracked pavement toward the front gates. Brandon rammed his shoulder into the iron bars with a grunt, then again, harder. The gates didn't budge. Maya dropped her flashlight to grab the chain and climb, but her hand slipped. The metal was slick. She stared at her palms. Not water. Blood. Fresh, warm blood coating the iron. She screamed, stumbling back. The voice crackled overhead. No leaving until the show is over. Lena spun toward the nearest speaker, hurling a rock at it. The grill dented with a crunch, but the voice simply echoed from another, one farther away. You all wanted a night of fun, didn't you? You dared yourselves to stay here. I'm only helping, pushing you to play. Sophie's breath came in short bursts. We're not playing anymore. Oh, but you are, the voice said softly. Lena, your turn. Lena froze, fists tightening. You don't tell me what to do. The carousel's lights snapped on behind her. The horses gleamed with peeling paint, their cracked eyes glowing faintly red. The gears whined, spinning the platform without anyone touching it. Ride, the voice purred. Or Sophie dies. Lena whipped her head toward Sophie, who shook her head frantically, tears streaking her cheeks. Don't, Lena, don't listen to it. The carousel groaned louder. The white horse's head turned, joints cracking, its teeth grinding together. The voice began to count. 10, 9, 8. Lena swore, shoved Sophie aside, and ran toward the carousel. She leapt onto the platform, grabbed the pole, and mounted the chipped horse. The ride spun faster, faster, light strobing. Her hair whipped around her face as the horse bucked violently beneath her. Hold on tight, the voice whispered. The pole jerked suddenly, dragging her upward. Screams tore out of her throat as the pole pulled her higher, into the carousel ceiling, her body jamming into the gears. Sparks rained down. The sound of grinding metal and breaking bone filled the night. The ride screeched to a halt. What dropped back onto the carousel wasn't Lena anymore. The voice exhaled, almost laughing. Who's ready for round 3? The night tightened around them like a noose. One after another the park's dead things woke and turned on its living trespassers, as if each rusted ride remembered how to kill. Sophie's hands shook so badly, the flashlight beam trembled across the midway. We have to find Danny, she said, voice raw. He's here. He can help. Danny's gone, Brandon spat, jaw clenched. He ran. Left us too. He broke off when the voice snaked through the speakers, soft and intimate, filling the empty spaces between them. You say his name like a prayer, it said. Sophie, step into the prize booth. We all want to win something. Sophie backed away. No, not. You'll win him back, the voice promised. Or you'll watch someone else win you. The prize booth door creaked open a little, as though pushed by a polite hand. Inside, rows of stuffed animals hung limply, faded smiles sewn into their fabric. On the counter sat a prize, one of those carnival games where you toss a ball and hope. A single ball was on the counter, dusty and cracked. Sophie made it to the booth as if pulled by threads. Her fingers hovered over the ball. I'm not. Her voice tore into a sob. Throw, the voice said. She hurled the ball at the wheel. It spun and clacked, clicking past names painted on chipped wood. Sophie Braden, then stopped on Sophie. The lights behind the booth snapped off. There was a wet, rubbery sound, something like a mouth closing. Screams cut short. Sophie's flashlight rolled back toward them and landed on the booth's threshold, lighting a smear of red that had never been there before. They found her arm later, beneath the pile of stuffed prizes, pale and limp, trapped in mesh and gears, caught between a rigged prize machine and a metal grate that had snapped like a jaw. Her fingers were reaching for them, as though forgiveness might be given if someone pulled her free, but the rest of her was gone, ground up into a smell that made Brandon choke. The voice hummed in triumph. Lesson 2. You become what you want. Maya vomited behind a stand. Brandon slammed his fist into a game cabinet until his knuckles bled. For a dizzy moment, he looked like he might run, might climb the fence, and never look back. But the park had him in its sights. The speakers flared again. Brandon, it said, slow and kind. You want to be brave. Prove it. Take the roller coaster to the top. Shout his name when you get there. If you hesitate, the harness fails. Brandon's mouth twisted. You're sick. He stalked toward the coaster like a wolf, pride pushing his feet. Maya grabbed his sleeve. Don't, she begged. He's setting us up. The coaster climbed with a creak that was practically a prayer. The chain rattled as the cars reached the summit and paused like a held breath. Brandon stood, face pale in the flash of the ride lights, and bellowed, Danny. His voice sounded ragged and small up there. Below, the voice chuckled through the loudspeakers. So brave. The first drop came not for the coaster, but for Brandon. The safety harness clicked, then unhooked with a cold, mechanized finality. The car lurched. Brandon's hands scrabbled at the restraint. For a breathless second, everything slowed. The sky turned into a smear of rusted metal and stars. And then the rail ended, and so did he. The car stalled on a loop like some grotesque sculpture. Brandon's scream was cut clean off by the track snap. When the ride shuddered to silence, his foot banged a slow, last rhythm against the steel, and then the park ate that rhythm too. Maya was alone with the echo of her friends' deaths and the taste of copper in her mouth. The park circled her like a pack. The speakers whispered, Who will be the last? Adrenaline is a poor architect of plans. Maya found herself running without direction, legs burning, breath tearing in her chest. She ducked under bannered arches and stumbled past shattered games. The midway lights blinked like distant eyes. Every shadow looked like a memory. She found Brandon at the tilt-a-whirl, pacing, hands slick with someone else's blood. He barely registered her at first. He was talking, not to her, but to the empty seats, to the place where Danny might stand. You should have all seen me, Brandon told the darkness. I always knew I'd be the hero. He laughed then, a thin, dangerous sound. Maya moved toward him with hands up. We have to destroy the system. Find the control room, flip the breakers. And what, Maya? Save ourselves. He snapped. We can't save anyone now. It's too late. The voice cut across them like a blade. Spoil the ending, it said softly. One fight. One winner. Brandon, take the final game. Maya will watch. Brandon lunged first. It was a desperate animal attack, the kind that comes from someone who has nothing left to lose. He shoved Maya against a game stall, hands like clamps. She slammed her forehead into his face. He tasted metallic and brittle. They crashed to the ground, rolling, fists swinging, nails scraping skin. When Brandon grabbed her throat, his mouth silent and wild, Maya realized the fight was no longer about exiting the park. It was about becoming hard enough to survive. She shoved him off, scrambled to her feet, and bolted. only to be thrown into the center of the merry-go-round path by a sudden movement of metal. The ride's gondola spun, just fast enough to become weapons. Brandon tripped, hit the edge of a booth, and slid into a pile of prize rope. For an ecstatic second, he looked like he could crawl away, a survivor. Then the voice changed its rules. "Both of you," it said velvet smooth, "will win." Lights blazed. Music, carnival music, warped and swollen, pushed through the speakers. The tilt-a-whirl shuddered like a living thing. Hooks fell from the ceiling. Chains swung with precise, practiced arcs. The park orchestrated their bodies into a last dance. Maya fought like someone who'd been rehearsing fear her whole life. She nearly had the control hatch open on the maintenance pit when Brandon lunged through the swinging chains and tackled her. They tumbled together into the opening like animals, hands flailing for purchase. The hatch slammed. They were both inside, the door above them locking with a metallic sigh. They looked at each other in the dimness, bruised, bleeding, panting. The proximity stripped away bravado. Brandon's eyes were red. Maya's hands were shaking. For a second, the world narrowed to 2 heartbeats. "Why did you leave me?" Brandon demanded, voice broken. "Why did you tell them?" He choked on his words, guilt and accusation tangling. Maya spat blood. "I didn't." The park's voice seeped into the pit through the seams in the metal. "Final question," it announced. "One life remains. Choose." "You idiot," Brandon hissed. "Choose me. Do it." Maya's fingers dug into a railing until her nails broke. She saw all the faces, the hollowed eyes, the twisted limbs, and something colder than grief took hold. "No," she breathed. "I won't." Brandon's face hardened like a man carving himself into a tool. "You'll pick yourself," he said. "You don't deserve to live." He leapt. Maya shoved backward, but his weight and desperate momentum carried him over. He grabbed a chain to stop his fall. The chain snapped like twine. Brandon twisted, limbs flailing, and fell into the machinery below. The grate closed. His scream tunneled up, then stopped, a sound that died quickly and left a silence that tasted like ash. Maya clawed at the hatch, bleeding, trembling. She tried to pull the chains apart, to undo the gears. The park hummed above, satisfied. "One remains," the speakers said, approving. She was the last. Maya's legs felt hollow. Every step toward the control tower was heavy with the weight of the dead. She moved through corridors of shadow and carnival relics, a skeleton midway, prize dolls with stitched mouths, Polaroids of smiling children yellowed with time. Each photograph seemed fresh, as if taken yesterday. The control tower's door was a rusted gate, locked with a padlock that had been chewed through from one side. Inside, banks of monitors glowed, grainy feeds of every part of the park. On a central screen, a live shot of the midway showed the bodies as they'd fallen, then shifted to a close-up of a face she'd last seen laughing. Danny. Her breath stopped. Danny's hair was tangled, his eyes bright with something that belonged to no living person. He sat amid tangled wires like a conductor, headphone cord wound around his fingers. For the first time since the night began, Maya felt something like understanding, cold and terrible. She said. Her voice came out small. "Danny." He smiled an inch too slow, as the smile of someone who'd watched from the dark a long time and finally been read. "You didn't see me," he said calmly. "You said I was invisible. I fixed that. You left us," she said. "You vanished. We thought you were dead." Danny blinked. The monitors reflected the park's lights in his eyes. "You thought wrong. I was here, waiting. They never watched me. They never listened. I built them a microphone. I taught the park how to speak." He tapped a bank of buttons. The speakers squawked with the music that had guided every kill. "You were so easy." Maya lunged. She grabbed at the wires. They hissed and sparked. She yanked a handful free and tried to drag the main breaker, but the room was a trap. Cameras swiveled like insect eyes. The speakers screamed a sound that drilled into her head, making her knees buckle. Danny slid from his chair and looked at her without pity. "You all had parts to play," he said. Brandon wanted to be brave. Sophie wanted to be loved. Tyler wanted to be funny. Lena wanted to be seen. I wanted to be heard. "You monster," Maya said, but there was no venom left, only a tired, bitter clarity. He shrugged as if admitting a trivial fact. I taught the park to take what it wanted. It liked learning. He smiled again, and this time was giddy, like a boy given everything at last. You should have stayed invisible, Maya. You might have been safe. She lunged at him, knocking the headset from his head. Wires snapped. Danny grabbed her arm and held it like a vice, his fingers cold as glass. They grappled amid the tangle of electronics, both panting. In the chaos, the park turned its machinery into a blade. Gears spun with renewed hunger. Lights throbbed. The speakers filled the room with the laughter of 1,000 recorded voices, children cheering a prize won, a parent clapping. Layered over the voice's calm narration. You asked for a night of thrills, the voice intoned through every speaker. And it was Danny's voice, but not his alone. It was mechanical and smooth and ancient. You wanted to play. Maya shoved, kicked, twisted. She hit a console, felt something give. Wires erupting like a geyser. For a heartbeat, the screens went black. The hum ceased, then the park snapped awake in a fit of appetite. A maintenance hatch slammed into her shoulder. Chains coiled like serpents. The central gear, 1,000 little teeth, descended with patient inevitability. Danny watched unmoved, his face small in the glow of monitors. I told you I'd never be invisible again, he said. The grin he wore was the grin of someone holding a match under a dry field. Maya screamed as the machines took hold. She fought until she couldn't fight anymore, until her voice broke and became part of the park's music. The last thing she saw was Danny's face on a screen, magnified and serene, as if he sat in a theater watching the final scene. When the lights finally dimmed, the control room was quiet. The monitors played back a loop of the night's events on silence. Bodies moving, a playground of death, a single figure sitting serenely among the wires. Danny's hands folded in his lap. He looked like a king who had won without blood on his own fingers. Epilogue. Danny goes to school. Dawn leaked pale across the coast. The park stilled, its appetite momentarily sated. Evidence crews would find nothing but empty rides and scattered bottles. Witnesses would say they heard music in the distance. The media would shrug and file it under young people's pranks. Somewhere in town, a missing persons report might whisper his name and slide into a drawer. Danny walked into school the next Monday with the easy pace of someone who belonged. He wore a hoodie, hair mussed, eyes bright with a secret. The hallways were noisy with lockers slamming and the low hum of teenagers complaining about homework and who liked whom. Danny moved through it like a man passing through a crowd that finally recognized him. He stopped by a cluster of students near the notice board. One girl had a flyer for an abandoned park party stapled where everyone could see. The paper was cheap, the edges curled like a joke. Danny smiled, the exact smile he had when he'd watched the monitors, and leaned in close. You should come see it, he told them softly. It's not really abandoned. They laughed like children, the way children laugh, when they don't know the world can hurt them. He handed one of them a cracked ticket he'd slipped from his pocket, a keepsake, warm with memory. The boy tucked it into his wallet like a talisman. That night, lights flickered at the park as if answering a summons, and somewhere a new voice cracked open a speaker and began to speak names into the dark.